Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about Black Cab from director Bruce Goodison. Now, this is a very interesting movie. It's a British horror movie, but it's simultaneously two different types of horror movies at once. It's at once a trapped inside of a car with a psycho movie, but it's also a ghost story on top of that. Now, unfortunately, we can't talk too much about the ghost story portion of this movie because that's where all the spoilers really lie. But what's really interesting about this movie is it stars Nick Frost of the Cornetto trilogy fame, and we don't really start off with him. We start off with what seems to be the main character, which is this woman and her husband, or at least her fiance.
Yeah.
And they get into a cab. They end up getting kidnapped by this cabbie and taken for reasons we're not quite sure what they are. We have no idea why he's doing this, but what we do know is that for whatever reason, he resents their relationship on some level.
Yeah, he particularly has it in for the guy.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is the movie starts off as if it's about her, the wife slash fiance in this equation. But over the course of the movie, it becomes really clear that this is actually Nick Frost's movie.
Yeah.
The cab driver's movie. And we're mainly seeing his story through her lens. She is more the audience, like, surrogate character.
Yeah.
We're seeing the movie through her, but it's not actually about her as much as it's about him.
Yeah, although much is revealed about Nick Frost through her.
Yes, and much is revealed about her as the movie goes on, too. So
Yeah.
it's not like she has no character, but...
Right. She has a purpose other than to be the audience insert. But by the end of the movie, you're like, oh no, the main character was Nick Frost.
100%. It becomes very clear.
Yeah.
When the credits roll.
Yeah, the movie also gets progressively weirder in the last act. Like up in the first two acts, it's pretty straightforward. She and her fiance have been kidnapped. Nick Frost is the kidnapper, and there's somehow a ghost involved.
Yep.
Once the ghost's involvement becomes more explained, it starts to get weirder.
Yeah, it becomes a bit of a mindfuck by the end.
Yeah. It has an almost like Cemetery Man ending.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. It leaves a lot to interpretation, and we'll talk about our individual interpretations when we get to the spoiler section, but I'm warning you right now, this movie does not have a straightforward ending. So if you need a straightforward ending, you're gonna have to find a different movie to watch.
No. There's, like I said, this is like a Cemetery Man Fulci ending.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Now, that being said, the stuff that does happen is things that are set up earlier in the movie. It just happens in such a weird and confusing way that you find yourself going, wait, hold on. How does this all come together? And we'll explain how we felt it come together in the spoiler section.
This is really a Nick Frost tour de force.
It really is. He is acting his ass off from start to finish. You really get to see a side of him you don't normally see in movies because, usually he's the lovable fat guy. But in this movie, he plays a character who starts off as lovable, becomes an asshole, and then becomes scary by the end of it.
Yeah. If you ever wanted to be afraid of Nick Frost, this is the movie for you.
This is the movie where you're gonna watch him and go like, oh shit, I'm afraid of what that man could do.
Yeah.
Truly a scary individual. You do find yourself empathizing with him.
Oh, he's very sympathetic.
Even when he's horrible. That's not to say you don't find yourself empathizing with the victims. You do, especially the wife. Less so the husband.
Oh, I didn't empathize with the guy at all, but I did empathize with her.
The guy was a complete piece of shit. Let's just be real.
He is an emotionally abusive, narcissistic asshole.
Oh God, we don't even have to get into spoilers for this, but at the beginning of the movie, when he's clearly flirting with the other girl at the table with them, her best friend, in front of her. Now, mind you, he does that and then immediately turns around and announces their marriage. Announces the fact that they're gonna get married.
Yeah. Whoa.
And it kind of explains something you're wondering at the beginning of the movie, because at the beginning of the movie, it's very clear that the main character, she's suffering from night terrors. She's having all these paranoid delusions. She thinks she's seeing things. And you're wondering why she's in such a bad state. Is she actually having hallucinogenic PTSD flashbacks or something?
Yeah, because it doesn't seem to be that.
No.
But something is clearly wrong with her mental state.
But it becomes more clear that it probably has something to do with the fact that her fiance is an asshole and she's getting married to him soon. I don't know if she's down with that. Now, there is more to her mental state that we'll talk about in the spoiler section because more about her is revealed as the movie goes on, and it definitely explains 100% what was going on at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, but the other half of her behavior is easily explainable once you realize that she is a victim of narcissistic abuse.
Well, yeah, because she acts like someone who's afraid to get hit all the time.
Yeah.
The guy never hits her at any point in the movie, but he's the kind of guy that you can imagine give it a couple years and he would.
Yeah. It's not that you couldn't imagine him doing it. It's just that that's what he'll do once his other bullshit stops working.
Well, yeah, once he starts...
He just hasn't gotten there yet.
Because he's already obviously fed up with her.
Yeah.
So I imagine them getting married and spending like years with one another. It's probably just going to get worse, right?
Yeah, of course it'll get worse.
Especially since at this point they're just engaged and he's already like grabbing her arm and throwing her inside of a car. You know?
Yeah. He's being physically abusive. He's just not openly striking her.
So at the very beginning, you're very much on Nick Frost's side because he immediately starts like laying into this guy with these passive aggressive jabs. But it also becomes clear as the movie goes on that he is dangerous for her as well as the husband slash fiance.
Yeah, Nick Frost's a very dangerous man.
Oh man, he becomes so unhinged at the end. And it's the kind of unhinged where he's like alternating between being scary and like having his own emotional meltdown.
Yeah, one of the other things that's really cool about the way Nick Frost's character develops is revealed over the course of this movie is that he wasn't necessarily an angel to start out with, but you're watching an average guy.
Yeah.
Like a very average guy who has been pushed well past his limit.
Oh, yeah. And he at times almost comes across like one of those like almost angry incel types, right?
Yeah.
But as the movie goes on, it becomes clear it's more than just that.
Yeah. It's not just whatever internal struggle he is having. There is this external force that is pushing him farther and farther. Were it not for this supernatural interference, he probably would be fairly normal.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Absolutely. One thing I really want to praise for this movie, I really love the cinematography of this movie.
Oh yeah, it looks beautiful.
There's two things I really love about it. The first one is the use of colors is great.
Oh yeah.
Like when they get inside the car and then you get those reds in like the back window, kind of signifying like they're in hell basically.
Yeah.
That stuff is great. But I also like the ghosts appearing in mirrors and stuff like that. And sometimes in ways to where they don't even call attention to it. It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And when you notice it, you're just like, holy shit, there's a girl sitting there in the window.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff like that.
Now, there are times where they directly call attention to the image of the ghost because it's literally like jumping out at the main character.
Yeah.
At times. The subtle implications that it's already there during the entire journey is really well handled, in my opinion.
One of the things that I actually really like about this movie, it's something that Western films don't often do.
Yeah.
Which is to tell a story like this without turning it into a morality play.
That's true.
This movie very much is not a morality play.
And the funny part is, for most of the movie, I was worried it was going to become one. There's some certain points where you're just like, oh, this could go south real quickly. And if it says what I think it's about to say, then I'm not sure I'm going to like this movie.
Yeah. It's much more folkloric. It's much more in lines with, for example, a Japanese movie would do.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, no, this is the monster and this is how it operates. The Ghost is much more in line with stories of like the Banshee.
Yes.
You know, because the Banshee is like, it's a monster, but it's there because something terrible is about to happen.
Well, yeah, it's also like, it's like an urban legend.
Yeah.
In the movie, almost like a Bloody Mary kind of figure.
Yeah.
That's looming over the entire story.
Yeah. It's the ghostly hitchhiker.
Yeah.
You know, and the ghostly hitchhiker is freaky, but it's not like, it doesn't pick a driver because the driver is bad or good or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it just happens.
And oftentimes it's just looking for a ride. Thanks for the ride, lady.
Thanks for the ride, lady.
You know?
That was a morality play, though.
That one was. I mean, Creepshow is doing the EC Comics thing. Those are usually definitely
Those are almost always morality plays.
This one isn't, though it easily could have been turned into one, and I'm glad they didn't, because I think it's better served not being one.
Oh, yeah, it's way better served just having everything just unravel or reveal itself and leaving the audience to make their judgments.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't think you could have done this story in a better area than the UK.
I get that, yeah.
Because there's just something about that environment, those roads, and that style of car.
Yes, yes.
You know, like...
The combination of the three gives this movie a really great look.
Yeah. It goes from the lights of the city to, like, the wet, glinty foliage of, like, the countryside. It's so cool.
And then you add on top of that the harsh red and greens and blue lighting.
Yeah. Even the style of abandoned buildings that is in that area adds to the character of the whole thing.
100%. That gas station scene's probably one of my favorite scenes. That old ass gas station.
Yeah. It wouldn't feel right if it was in America.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
And in case it wasn't obvious, thumbs up.
Oh yeah, I like this movie. I dug this movie. My only problem with the movie is that the ending is so confusing that it took me watching it twice to really get it. But that's not really a problem. That just means the movie is not spoon feeding you. Is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so this movie is a Shudder original movie, so if you want to watch it, you're going to have to go subscribe to Shudder to check it out, though I'm sure, like all Shudder movies, it'll eventually get its own home video release, and you can check it out there too. And so with that said, let us move on to the spoilers.
We discover through the course of the movie that the reason that Nick Frost is doing this is because the ghost is compelling him.
Yeah, basically the ghost is a ghost of a woman who got hit by a car while chasing her daughter down the road. And she's stalked this one road ever since. And over the course of the movie, you find out that this ghost has been stalking and haunting Nick Frost and has basically made a deal with him that if he brings her a baby to replace her daughter, then she will let him go.
Well, not only will she let him go, she'll let his son go.
Yes, because she's got a hold of his son. And that's why over the course of the movie, he gets more and more emotionally deranged because he's not just doing this for his own sake. He's doing this to try to save his son.
Yeah, and also part of what is going on is that the ghost is also compelling him towards his worst behaviors.
Yep, 100%.
You know, like, you get the feeling that, like, he hit his wife.
Yeah.
And that was partially the ghost pushing him and pushing him.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You know, and you're just like, oh, yikes.
It's basically a curse.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a curse not only on the road, because that's where the ghost lives. It's a curse on Nick Frost for having driven on the road.
Yeah, for just having been there and picked her up.
Yep.
You know, something that he did because he was like, I wonder if this woman's okay.
And you get the impression that the problem is that he picked her up. If someone else had picked her up, then they would have...
Yeah, it would have been them. It would have been them. It could have been anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. The other twist at the end of this movie is that it turns out that the main character, or at least the person who we think is the main character until it becomes clear it's Nick Frost,
right?
She is pregnant, and that's actually one of the main reasons she is having all this emotional distress, because not only is she gonna have a baby with this guy who's very abusive, now she has to be concerned about that. However, there's a further twist later in the movie.
Yeah, there's a further twist.
Actually, it turns out that Nick Frost had originally picked her up like a week before and was kind of led to pick her up by the ghost. Like, the ghost brought them together because she was a pregnant woman. And so the ghost is like, I want her baby. But it turns out that Nick Frost, when he picked her up, was actually taking her to the hospital. He thought he was just taking her to the hospital so she could...
So have a prenatal checkup.
Yeah, to have a prenatal checkup. But actually, she was going to the hospital because she lost the baby.
Yeah, she had a miscarriage.
Oh no, she's actually distressed because she lost the baby.
Yeah.
That's why she's in such an emotionally distraught place.
Yeah, she thinks that the guy is keeping her alive because she has the baby.
Yep.
And so she continues the masquerade of having it.
Yep.
You know, she wants to live.
And the other part of this is the ghost isn't just stalking him, it's stalking her too, and she just hasn't realized it yet.
Yeah, it stalks her from the first scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It stalks her.
Because she's having a nightmare about it.
Yeah.
And in the nightmare, she's still pregnant, which is partially why she wakes up so distressed. It's not just the ghost in the nightmare, it's the fact that she keeps having nightmare about her pregnancy that failed, you know? And the ghost doesn't know it, but she does?
Yeah.
So when you get to the end of the movie and it's time to give her up to the ghost, oh shit, I don't actually have a baby. There is no baby, man. I can't give the baby to the ghost. And so what ends up happening is basically the ghost takes her instead.
Yeah. The ghost takes her.
And she becomes the new lady on the road.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, there's almost an implication that, like, he finally either broke the curse or at least reached the next stage of it, because, like, he's been trying to get a hold of his wife the whole movie, and then she finally calls him back after the ghost takes her.
Yeah.
But then also, he almost runs over her.
Yeah, it's weird because what the movie implies is that the ghost actually has taken the child already. Like, that's why she miscarried.
Oh, I didn't catch that part.
Yeah.
That's a very astute observation.
Yeah. But there is still a need for her to be on the road to be the next woman who haunts that road. Because if you'll notice, throughout the appearances of the ghost,
it has different appearances each
different
time.
Faces.
And it's also like alternating faces at times in some of its appearances.
So it's like the road itself needs this ghostly, wants this ghostly hitchhiker to be there.
And so she lost her kid, and so now she's going to be the new ghost that's going to be stalking the next cab driver that drives through.
Right. And Nick Frost, on his way out after his wife finally calls him and it seems like he's broken the curse, hits the ghost of the girl he kidnapped. But when he goes to inspect it, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's a ghost.
Yeah, well, that's also how you know that she's now the new ghost. Right?
Yeah.
Now she's the thing jumping out in front of cars.
And now he drives off. He's got that one part of the curse dealt with, but now he's cursed by the ghost he just hit.
You gave me some insight that I missed, and now the movie makes even more sense. And the abusive husband guy is killed like halfway into the movie.
He's neutralized and then finally killed.
Yeah, with the fucking cattle prod thing he had.
Yeah. Well, eventually, like, Nick Frost actually just cuts his throat open.
That's right.
He's finally just sick of him.
That's right. He fucking...
Yeah, the boyfriend is absolutely fucking useless.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which is clearly his point.
Well, he keeps trying to do this, like, macho shit, even though he's, like, tied up and incapacitated because he keeps having seizures.
Yeah.
But he keeps trying to pretend like, oh, I'm going to kick his ass and all that stuff. And you're like, dude, like, you can't... You're going to choke on your own vomit before you kick his ass.
Yeah, even if Nick Frost didn't have this nasty cattle prod that he's using, I'm not real wild about your chances against him in a physical confrontation.
Now, also, to be clear, before he dies, he also reveals that he did, in fact, cheat on her with her best friend, so...
Yeah.
Which is also funny, because earlier in the movie, the best friend was trying to warn her about him. You're not sure if she's doing that because, like, she knows something about him, or if she's just noticing his behavior.
Yeah, but knowing, well, he cheated on you with me.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't want to just come out and say that.
Well, because, like, that's now a betrayal I did, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, his betrayal's worse because he's your actual boyfriend / fiance.
Yeah.
And the worst part is she would have gotten away if she didn't try to save him.
Yes.
Like, he's still...
Yes, several times.
He's still, at the end of the movie, is still this weight weighing her down.
Yeah, because, like, he becomes unconscious and he's incapacitated, and she's constantly trying to save his life.
Yep.
Nick Frost, clearly, the only reason he hasn't just outright killed him yet is because she keeps asking him not to.
Yep. Because Nick Frost obviously does not like abusers, which is ironic because he basically becomes one over the course of this movie.
Yeah, he does. I
think it's because there's a part of him that sees the worst parts of himself in that guy, and so he really resents it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he sees his own worst tendencies in that guy, and the ghost is exacerbating all those tendencies in himself, so he's really feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, he's feeling every time, because every time he thought about saying something nasty to his wife, any nasty thing he thought about his kid, he is feeling this tremendous amount of guilt and remorse over.
He's feeling guilt for some of his own resentment towards his wife.
Yeah. Like, things that he thought but didn't act on.
Yeah.
Which puts him in direct contrast with the boyfriend, because the boyfriend is all abuse, no regret.
Yep.
No guilt.
And the fact that you find out that he actually cheated on her makes the way he treats her when she's treating him like he's done something wrong even worse, because actually you did do something wrong.
He did do something wrong.
And you know it.
Yep. Those two men are two halves of each other.
Yep.
You know, really, 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 really well written.
Yeah. It's a very compelling movie. Hopefully, Jack and I talking about the ending will help you parse the ending if you, like me, were really confused the first time you watched it.
Oh, yeah, because the whole thing about, like, the curse and the road, while the legend is explained, the ending is not spoon-fed to you.
No.
You have to put it together because you were supposed to be in that moment of, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
You know, you're supposed to feel like you yourself have been haunted.
Well, because you end up at the end of the movie with, like, no dialogue, just them running through the woods. And,
there's almost no dialogue. And it's just them dealing with what's happening.
And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, do you have any final thoughts on Black Cab?
Dude, check it out. It is a great urban horror story.
100%.
You know, and it leaves you with that beautiful, unsettled feeling by the end of it, which usually is kind of reserved for, like I said, like, you know, Japanese ghost stories.
I would agree, yeah.
You know? Anyway, you can find me here on YouTube, where I stream most weekdays after 7 p.m. This week, we're going to have a couple of special guests, so you should be there every night just to see who it is. How about you?
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way, but we will certainly accept more. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag Lady in White. Use the hashtag Lady in White, that way I know. That way Jack knows. That way the whole world knows exactly who you picked up on the road last night. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.